The Courage to Grow, Breaking Barriers and Embracing Fear as a Catalyst for Change. Written by M.A.B. Published by Elevate Your Mind. Introduction. Fear is a universal emotion, one that has shaped human history, driven decisions, and often held us back from reaching our full potential. Yet, what if fear is not the enemy we perceive it to be? What if, instead of being a barrier, fear could serve as a powerful catalyst for growth, transformation, and change? In The Courage to Grow, Breaking Barriers and Embracing Fear as a Catalyst for Change, we embark on a journey to redefine our relationship with fear. This book is not just about overcoming fear. It's about understanding its roots, recognizing its role in our lives, and harnessing its energy to propel us forward. Fear, when embraced, becomes a teacher, a guide that points us toward the areas of our lives where growth is most needed. Drawing from psychology, neuroscience, and real-life stories of resilience, this book explores how fear operates in our minds and bodies. It delves into the science behind fear, from the primal responses that keep us safe to the ways our minds rationalize and sometimes amplify our fears. It also examines the different types of fear, acute, chronic, phobias, and existential fears, and how each manifests in our lives. But this is not just a theoretical exploration. The Courage to Grow is a practical guide, offering actionable strategies to confront and transform fear. From mindfulness and cognitive restructuring to gradual exposure and visualization techniques, you'll learn how to turn fear into a source of strength. You'll discover how to challenge limiting beliefs, step outside your comfort zone, and embrace uncertainty as a pathway to growth. This book is also a celebration of courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. Through inspiring stories of individuals who face their fears and emerge stronger, you'll see how fear can be a stepping stone to success, innovation, and self-discovery. Whether you're grappling with the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown, The Courage to Grow will equip you with the tools to break through barriers and unlock your true potential. It's an invitation to embrace fear as a companion on your journey, to see it not as a limitation, but as a catalyst for change. Let this book be your guide as you take bold steps toward a life of courage, resilience, and growth. The journey begins with a single step, one that starts with acknowledging your fears and choosing to move forward anyway. Chapter 1. Understanding Fear, the Invisible Force That Shapes Us. Fear is one of the most primal and universal human experiences. It is an emotion that has been hardwired into our brains for millions of years, a survival mechanism that has kept our ancestors alive in the face of danger. From the rustling of leaves in the dark to the modern-day anxieties of public speaking or failure, fear has always been a constant companion in the human journey. But what exactly is fear? At its core, fear is an emotional response to perceived threats. It triggers a cascade of physiological reactions. Our heart races, our muscles tense, and our senses sharpen, preparing us to fight, flee, or freeze. This fight-or-flight response, governed by the amygdala in our brain, is essential for survival. Yet, in today's world, where physical threats are rare, fear often manifests in more subtle and complex ways. Fear is not just a biological response. It is also deeply psychological. It is shaped by our experiences, beliefs, and cultural conditioning. For some, fear is a paralyzing force, holding them back from pursuing their dreams. For others, it is a nagging voice of doubt, whispering that they are not good enough, smart enough, or brave enough. And for a few, fear becomes a motivator, pushing them to take risks and achieve greatness. In this chapter, we will explore the multifaceted nature of fear. We will examine its origins, both evolutionary and personal, and how it influences our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. We will also delve into the different types of fear, from the instinctive fear of physical harm to the more abstract fears of failure, rejection, and the unknown. But this chapter is not just about understanding fear. It is about reframing it. Fear, as we will see, is not inherently negative. It is a signal, a messenger that points us toward the areas of our lives where growth is needed. When we learn to listen to fear without being controlled by it, we can begin to see it as a catalyst for change rather than an obstacle. Through stories of individuals who have faced their fears and emerged stronger, we will see how fear can be a powerful teacher. We will also introduce the idea that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. By the end of this chapter, you will have a deeper understanding of fear's role in your life and the first tools to begin transforming it into a force for growth. The journey to embracing fear starts here. Let's take the first step together. Chapter 2: The Science of Fear: How Our Brain and Body Respond. Fear is not just an abstract emotion. It is a deeply rooted physiological process that involves intricate interactions between our brain, nervous system, and body. To truly understand fear, and ultimately to master it, we must first explore the science behind it. At the heart of our fear response is the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure in the brain that acts as our emotional alarm system. When we perceive a threat, whether real or imagined, the amygdala springs into action, triggering a cascade of reactions designed to protect us. This is the famous fight-or-flight response, a survival mechanism that has been honed over millions of years of evolution. But the amygdala doesn't act alone. It works in tandem with other parts of the brain, such as the hypothalamus, which activates the autonomic nervous system, and the prefrontal cortex, which helps us assess the threat and decide how to respond. While the amygdala reacts quickly and instinctively, the prefrontal cortex is slower and more rational, allowing us to evaluate whether the threat is real or exaggerated. When the amygdala is activated, it sends signals to the rest of the body, preparing us to face danger. Our heart rate increases, pumping more blood to our muscles. Our breathing quickens, delivering more oxygen to our brain and body. Our senses sharpen, and our pupils dilate, allowing us to take in more information about our surroundings. These changes happen in a matter of seconds, often before we are even consciously aware of the threat. But what happens when the threat is not a physical one? In the modern world, many of our fears are psychological: fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. These fears activate the same physiological responses as physical threats, even though there is no immediate danger to our survival. This mismatch between our ancient brain and our modern environment is at the root of much of our anxiety and stress. In this chapter, we will explore the science of fear in depth. We will examine how the brain processes fear, how the body responds, and how these responses can sometimes work against us. We will also look at the role of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, and how chronic fear can take a toll on our physical and mental health. But understanding the science of fear is not just an academic exercise. It is a practical tool. By learning how fear operates, we can begin to take control of it. Techniques such as mindfulness, deep breathing, and cognitive reframing can help us calm the amygdala and engage the prefrontal cortex, allowing us to respond to fear in a more rational and deliberate way. Through real-life examples and scientific insights, this chapter will show you how to harness the power of your brain and body to manage fear effectively. By the end of it, you will have a deeper understanding of the mechanisms behind fear and the first tools to begin transforming it into a force for growth. Fear may be hardwired into our biology, but it doesn't have to control us. Let's explore how we can take back the reins. Chapter 3: The Psychology of Fear: How Our Mind Shapes Our Fears. While the science of fear explains how our brain and body respond to threats, the psychology of fear delves into why we fear what we fear. Fear is not just a biological reaction. It is also a deeply personal and subjective experience, shaped by our thoughts, beliefs, memories, and cultural conditioning. At its core, fear is often rooted in uncertainty and the unknown. It arises when we face situations that feel unpredictable or beyond our control. For some, this might manifest as a fear of public speaking, where the uncertainty of how others will perceive us triggers anxiety. For others, it might be a fear of failure, where the unknown outcomes of our efforts paralyze us from taking action. But fear is also shaped by our beliefs and self-perception. If we believe that we are not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough, these limiting beliefs can amplify our fears and hold us back from pursuing our goals. Similarly, if we have experienced trauma or failure in the past, these memories can create mental associations that trigger fear in similar situations, even if the threat is no longer present. In this chapter, we will explore the psychological dimensions of fear. We will examine how our thoughts and beliefs influence our fear responses, and how these responses can become self-reinforcing over time. For example, if we avoid a situation that makes us anxious, we may feel temporary relief, but this avoidance reinforces the belief that the situation is dangerous, making it even harder to face in the future. We will also look at the role of cognitive biases in shaping our fears. The human brain has a tendency to focus on negative information, a phenomenon known as the negativity bias. This bias can cause us to overestimate risks and underestimate our ability to handle challenges, leading to unnecessary fear and anxiety. But understanding the psychology of fear is not just about identifying its sources. It is also about learning how to reframe and manage it. In this chapter, we will introduce practical strategies for challenging limiting beliefs, reframing negative thoughts, and building emotional resilience. Techniques such as cognitive restructuring, exposure therapy, and self-compassion can help us break free from the mental patterns that keep us trapped in fear. Through stories of individuals who have overcome their psychological fears, we will see how changing our mindset can transform our relationship with fear. By the end of this chapter, you will have a deeper understanding of how your mind shapes your fears and the tools to begin reshaping them into opportunities for growth. Fear may be a product of our thoughts, but it doesn't have to define us. Let's explore how we can rewrite the script. Chapter 4: The Courage to Act, Moving Forward in the Face of Fear. Courage is often misunderstood. It is not the absence of fear, nor is it the ability to ignore or suppress it. True courage is the willingness to act in spite of fear, to move forward even when every fiber of your being is urging you to retreat. It is the recognition that fear is a natural part of growth, and that the only way to overcome it is to face it head-on. In this chapter, we will explore the relationship between fear and courage. We will examine what it means to be courageous, not in the grandiose sense of heroic acts, but in the everyday moments of life, when we choose to speak up, take a risk, or step outside our comfort zone. Courage is not about being fearless. It is about being willing to feel fear and act anyway. We will also look at the different types of courage. There is physical courage, which involves facing physical danger or pain. There is moral courage, which involves standing up for what is right, even when it is unpopular or risky. And there is emotional courage, which involves confronting our inner fears, vulnerabilities, and insecurities. Each type of courage requires us to face fear in a different way, but they all share a common thread: the willingness to act in the face of uncertainty. But how do we cultivate courage? How do we move from being paralyzed by fear to taking bold, decisive action? In this chapter, we will introduce practical strategies for building courage. These include reframing fear, seeing fear not as a barrier, but as a signal that you are on the edge of growth; setting small goals, breaking down daunting challenges into manageable steps and celebrating small victories along the way; building resilience, developing the mental and emotional strength to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward; finding support, surrounding yourself with people who encourage and inspire you to be brave. Through stories of individuals who have demonstrated extraordinary courage in the face of fear, we will see how courage can transform lives. From the entrepreneur who risked everything to start a business to the survivor who faced their trauma and emerged stronger, these stories will inspire you to embrace your own courage. By the end of this chapter, you will have a deeper understanding of what it means to be courageous and the tools to begin taking bold steps in your own life. Courage is not a trait that some are born with and others lack. It is a skill that can be developed and strengthened over time. Fear may be a part of life, but it doesn't have to dictate your choices. Let's explore how you can find the courage to grow. Chapter 5: Embracing Fear, a Catalyst for Growth and Transformation. As we reach the end of this journey, it's time to reflect on what we've learned and how we can apply it to our lives. Fear, as we've seen, is not an enemy to be defeated or a weakness to be ashamed of. It is a natural and inevitable part of the human experience, a signal that we are stepping into the unknown, pushing our boundaries, and growing. In this final chapter, we will explore how to embrace fear as a catalyst for growth and transformation. We will revisit the key themes of the book: understanding fear, mastering its science, reframing its psychology, and cultivating courage, and see how they come together to create a roadmap for living a life of purpose and resilience. The first step in embracing fear is acceptance. Rather than resisting or avoiding fear, we must learn to acknowledge it and sit with it. This doesn't mean we have to like fear or welcome it with open arms, but it does mean recognizing that fear is a part of the process. When we accept fear, we take away its power to control us. The second step is curiosity. Instead of seeing fear as a threat, we can approach it with a sense of curiosity and openness. What is this fear trying to tell us? What can we learn from it? By asking these questions, we shift our perspective and begin to see fear as a teacher rather than an obstacle. The third step is action. Fear loses its grip on us when we take action, no matter how small. Each step we take in the face of fear builds our confidence and resilience, proving to ourselves that we are capable of more than we thought. Over time, these small steps add up to significant growth and transformation. But embracing fear is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing practice. In this chapter, we will introduce a framework for integrating this practice into your daily life. This framework includes mindfulness, staying present and aware of your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Self-compassion, treating yourself with kindness and understanding, especially when you feel afraid or vulnerable. Growth mindset, viewing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow rather than as threats to your self-worth. Community, surrounding yourself with supportive and inspiring people who encourage you to be brave. Through stories of individuals who have embraced fear and transformed their lives, we will see how this framework can be applied in real-world situations. From the artist who overcame self-doubt to share their work with the world to the leader who faced public criticism to stand up for their values, these stories will inspire you to take your own bold steps. By the end of this chapter, you will have a clear roadmap for embracing fear and using it as a catalyst for growth. You will understand that fear is not something to be avoided or conquered, but something to be embraced and integrated into your journey. The courage to grow is not about eliminating fear. It's about learning to live with it, to move through it, and to let it guide you toward a life of purpose, resilience, and fulfillment. The journey doesn't end here, it begins. Conclusion: the journey ahead. As we come to the end of this book, it's important to remember that the journey of embracing fear and cultivating courage is not a destination. It's a lifelong process. Fear will always be a part of our lives, but it doesn't have to define us. Instead, it can become a compass, guiding us toward growth, transformation, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. Throughout these pages, we've explored the many dimensions of fear, its origins in our biology, its roots in our psychology, and its role in shaping our lives. We've seen how fear can hold us back, but also how it can push us forward when we learn to reframe it and take action in spite of it. We've celebrated the stories of individuals who faced their fears and emerged stronger, proving that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. The tools and strategies we've discussed, mindfulness, self-compassion, cognitive reframing, and building resilience, are not just theoretical concepts. They are practical steps you can take to transform your relationship with fear. Each time you face a fear, no matter how small, you are building the courage to grow. Each time you choose curiosity over avoidance, action over paralysis, you are rewriting the script of your life. But this journey is not one you have to take alone. Surround yourself with people who inspire and support you, who remind you of your strength when you feel weak, and who encourage you to keep going when the path feels uncertain. And remember to be kind to yourself. Growth is not linear, and there will be moments when fear feels overwhelming. In those moments, take a deep breath, remind yourself of how far you've come, and take the next step. The courage to grow is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up again and again, even when it's hard. It's about embracing fear as a companion on your journey, not as an enemy to be defeated. And it's about trusting that on the other side of fear lies a life of purpose, resilience, and fulfillment. As you close this book and step back into your life, remember this: you are stronger than your fears. You are capable of more than you know. And every time you choose courage, you are not just breaking barriers. You are becoming the person you were meant to be. The journey ahead is yours to shape. Embrace it with courage, curiosity, and an open heart. The world is waiting for you. By M. Mub.